Before we dive deep into the profound question of why we hurt the people we love, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and stay until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to share is not just psychology, it is a mirror into your own heart. And if you watch closely, you may recognize patterns in your relationships that you never understood before. So please watch till the end and let's walk through this together. Carl Jung once said that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. And nowhere is this more evident than in the way we treat the people closest to us. Because strangely, the very people we love the most are often the ones who receive the sharpest edges of our shadow. Why does this happen? Why do we wound the very souls we want to protect? Jung believed that love is not only a union of two hearts, but also a collision of two psyches. And inside every psyche, there are forces that are both light and dark, conscious and unconscious, noble and destructive. And when we enter a relationship, especially a deep and intimate one, we do not just bring our smiles, kindness, and affection, we also bring unresolved wounds, hidden fears, insecurities, and unmet childhood needs, all of which are waiting to be triggered by the closeness of love. This is why many couples notice that arguments, resentment, or emotional pain arise not in spite of love, but because of it. For love brings us face to face with our most vulnerable self, and that vulnerability awakens both tenderness and aggression. Jung explained that much of what we dislike in our partner is actually a reflection of our own shadow, those parts of ourselves we have rejected or denied. And so when our loved one acts in a way that irritates us, what we are really seeing is a mirror of something inside us we have not yet accepted. And instead of embracing it, we attack, criticize, or withdraw, hurting the very person who revealed it. Think about it. Have you ever snapped at your partner for being careless, lazy, or selfish, only to later realize that you too carry those same tendencies somewhere inside? Have you ever been wounded by their silence or their words, only to discover that your reaction came not from their action alone, but from a deep memory of being ignored, abandoned, or belittled in your past? This is the Jungian truth, that love is not simply a comfort. It is also a confrontation, a mirror that shows us our hidden wounds. And because those wounds are painful, we lash out, we hurt, we project our own darkness onto the ones we love most. Yet within this painful truth lies a beautiful possibility. If we recognize the pattern, if we dare to look at our shadow instead of blaming our partner, then every conflict, every wound becomes a doorway to healing and to deeper love. Jung believed that relationships are alchemical vessels where transformation happens, where the fire of conflict can either burn the bond to ashes or forge it into something stronger. And the choice lies in whether we see our partner as the enemy or as the mirror of our own soul. And so the paradox of love reveals itself, that the very intimacy which draws us closer also uncovers the rawest parts of our being. And this is why Jung insisted that true love is not blind, rather it sees with a piercing clarity, because when we allow someone into the depths of our soul, they inevitably touch our hidden wounds. And in that touching, both healing and hurting can occur, for love has the power to soothe, but also the power to awaken the pain we tried so hard to bury. And here lies the question that troubles so many hearts. Why do we end up speaking the harshest words to those we most cherish? Why do we reserve patience for strangers yet lose it with our own family? Why does anger rise so quickly in the presence of the very person we vowed to protect? And the answer Jung offers is that love is not a stage for perfection, it is a mirror for transformation, meaning that every moment of conflict is secretly a lesson in disguise, showing us where our shadow still controls us, where our insecurities demand attention, where our inner child cries out for healing. And until we recognize this pattern, we remain trapped in cycles of blame and guilt, believing our partner is the problem, while in truth they are simply revealing the fragments of ourselves we left unseen. And once this truth begins to sink in, we start to realize that hurting those we love is not proof of our lack of love, but proof of the depth of it. Because only when someone truly matters do they have the power to touch the softest parts of our being, and only then do we react with such intensity. For indifference never wounds, only love does. And so if you have ever wondered why your heart aches after an argument, why your words sting long after they're spoken, remember that love magnifies everything. It magnifies joy, it magnifies pain, it magnifies the shadow. And by doing so, it gives us a rare chance to know ourselves in ways no solitary path ever could. Because in isolation, we may believe we are patient, kind, and whole, but in the presence of another soul, the illusion shatters and the truth emerges. And though that truth can be uncomfortable, it is the soil where real love takes root. For as Jung reminds us, wholeness is not about perfection, it is about embracing the union of opposites, light and dark, tenderness and anger, wound and healing. And in our relationships, we are invited again and again to face this wholeness, often through the very pain we wish to avoid. And as we continue to look deeper into this mystery through Jung's lens, we discover that much of the pain we cause in love is born not from malice, but from unconsciousness. For Jung always said that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. And in relationships, this is exactly what happens. We lash out not because we do not care, but because some hidden wound inside us has been activated. Some forgotten memory or unresolved feeling has suddenly come alive in the presence of our partner, and instead of realizing that it is our own pain resurfacing, we mistakenly attach it to the one standing before us. And so the person we love becomes the stage upon which our inner drama plays out. They become the mirror that reflects not only our beauty, but also our brokenness. And this is why love can feel so difficult, because it is not just two people meeting, it is two histories colliding, two childhoods echoing, two shadows intertwining. And in those moments of conflict, we are not just fighting about what was said at dinner or how the chores were left undone. We are actually wrestling with years of unmet needs, fears of abandonment, insecurities about worthiness, doubts about being loved. And Jung reminds us that these patterns, if left unconscious, repeat endlessly, generation after generation, until someone has the courage to stop and ask, why does this trigger me so deeply? Why do I feel so wounded by such a small gesture? What is the real story my heart is trying to tell me? And when we dare to listen, we find that the anger we throw at our partner often hides a deeper plea, a silent cry for connection, for reassurance, for recognition. And here lies the beauty of Jung's wisdom, because he did not see conflict in love as the end of intimacy, but as the true beginning of it. For only through confrontation with the shadow can authentic connection be born. And so every argument becomes a potential doorway, every misunderstanding an invitation to grow, every painful moment a seed of transformation. And if we resist the urge to withdraw or attack, and instead look inward, we can begin to see our partner not as the enemy, but as the teacher, the guide who unknowingly leads us back to ourselves. And so, if we dare to pause in the heat of conflict and remember that our reactions are often echoes of the past, we begin to see that the person in front of us is not the true enemy, but the messenger of our own hidden truths. And this shift is powerful because it allows us to step out of the cycle of blame and step into the path of understanding. For Jung taught that relationship is the laboratory of the soul, a place where every unhealed wound and every unacknowledged desire comes to the surface, not to destroy us, but to wake us up. And yet most of us resist this awakening. We fight it because it feels uncomfortable. We argue because it feels easier than facing our own vulnerability. And we build walls around our hearts thinking they will keep us safe, but in reality they only keep us isolated. And the tragedy is that many relationships collapse not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of awareness, because we keep treating symptoms instead of causes. We keep pointing fingers outward instead of looking inward. And so the same arguments repeat like old records. The same words get thrown like weapons. The same silences grow heavier. And love, which once felt like a gift, starts to feel like a burden. Yet hidden within that pain is the key to deeper intimacy. For if we can acknowledge that hurting the ones we love is a reflection of our own shadow, we can transform that hurt into healing. And this requires courage. The courage to admit that we are not perfect. The courage to accept that our partner will see both our best and our worst. The courage to let down the mask we wear in public and reveal the raw truth of our soul. And in this act of vulnerability, something miraculous happens. The wound becomes a bridge, the shadow becomes a guide, the conflict becomes a catalyst for connection, and suddenly the very thing that threatened to break us apart becomes the reason we grow stronger together. Jung believed that love demands honesty, not the shallow honesty of facts and figures, but the deeper honesty of self-revelation, the willingness to say, this is where I am hurt, this is where I feel afraid, this is where I need you. And when both partners can speak from that place, then even the darkest moments of misunderstanding can turn into light because they are no longer battles of ego, but dialogues of the soul. And here is where so many people misunderstand love, thinking it should always be harmonious, always easy, always filled with laughter. But Jung shows us that real love is a crucible. It burns away illusions, it tests us with fire, it demands that we face ourselves. And sometimes this process feels brutal, but it is only through that burning that something new and pure can emerge, something stronger than the fragile dreams we once held, something deeper than the fleeting passion of romance, something enduring, forged in the heat of struggle and cooled in the waters of compassion. And when couples survive this transformation, their bond becomes unshakable because it is built on not fantasy but on truth, not on denial but on acceptance, not on perfection but on wholeness.
And so, the next time you find yourself lashing out at the one you love, pause and ask, what part of me is being mirrored here? What hidden wound is crying out through my anger? What forgotten fear is begging for attention? And in that pause, you may discover that your pain is not their fault, but your own teacher, showing you the work still left undone. And if both partners can walk this path together, then every wound becomes a shared journey, every shadow a shared lesson, every conflict a shared doorway to greater understanding. And slowly, the relationship transforms into something sacred, a place where two souls not only love each other, but also help each other become whole. And when we begin to see our relationships through this lens of Jungian psychology, a profound clarity starts to unfold, because we realize that the very patterns that frustrate us most are in fact the very patterns that can liberate us if we have the patience to explore them. For love, as Jung understood, is not simply about companionship or romance, but about transformation. It is the great arena where the soul reveals itself through another person. And when you look at the moments you hurt the one you love, you may feel guilt or shame. Yet Jung would say, do not run from these feelings. Do not bury them beneath excuses or blame, but instead sit with them. Listen to what they are whispering, because every hurt carries a message. Every sharp word has a hidden meaning. Every conflict is a mirror reflecting back some hidden part of the self that longs to be recognized. And so when you apologize, do not apologize only to smooth the surface, but to acknowledge the depth beneath it. To say, not just, I am sorry for my words, but also, I see the fear inside me that gave birth to them. I see the insecurity that made me strike out. I see the wound that made me push you away when, in truth, I wanted you close. And when love reaches that level of honesty, it becomes unbreakable because it is no longer based on illusion, but on the courage to face the whole truth. Jung believed that love thrives not when we hide our darkness, but when we reveal it carefully, compassionately to another, because in that act of revealing, we also release its power over us. And the partner who witnesses that vulnerability becomes not just a lover, but a healer, a co-traveler in the deepest journey of the psyche. This is why relationships can feel so intense, because they touch the most sensitive places of our soul. And when those places are touched, we either lash out or we open up. We either fight or we transform. And the choice we make determines whether love becomes a prison or a path to freedom. Consider how often in your own life you may have hurt someone close to you and then felt an ache of regret. And ask yourself, what if that regret was not meant to punish me, but to awaken me? What if the very discomfort I feel is actually the compass pointing me to where my growth is needed most? What if my mistakes in love are not failures, but invitations to evolve? And this shift in perspective is everything, because it means that even the darkest chapters of a relationship can become sacred if we use them wisely. Jung often spoke about individuation, the process of becoming whole. And he believed that no one can truly individuate alone, that relationship is the furnace where the fragments of our personality are melted and reshaped, and that the conflicts of love are the very fires that make this transformation possible. So instead of fearing those conflicts or resenting them, what if we welcome them as part of the journey? What if we saw every argument not as a threat, but as a teacher? What if we embrace the idea that the person we love most is also the person chosen by life to show us the parts of ourselves we would otherwise never see? And in this light, even the pain we feel becomes a gift, because it is pain with purpose, pain that opens a door, pain that demands we look deeper. And when both partners commit to this path, something extraordinary unfolds, a relationship that is not about avoiding pain, but about transforming it. Not about pretending to be perfect, but about learning to be real. Not about clinging to a fantasy, but about building a truth that can withstand the storms of life. In this kind of love, hurting each other is not the end. It is a signal that something needs attention, that something deeper is calling to be healed. And if we heed that signal together, we find that love not only survives the hurt, but grows stronger because of it, like a tree whose roots dig deeper after every storm. This is the paradox of love Jung understood so well, that the moments of greatest pain can also become the moments of greatest possibility, if only we are willing to turn inward and listen. And as we arrive at the final stretch of this journey through Jung's wisdom, it is time to weave all the threads together and see the full picture. Because when Jung explored why we hurt the people we love, he was not merely giving psychological theories. He was unveiling the deepest truth of human connection, that love is both the most beautiful and the most dangerous force in our lives. For it exposes everything we hide, it magnifies every weakness, it brings to the surface every wound, and yet it is precisely because of this intensity that love has the power to transform us more than anything else. And so the question is not how to avoid hurting each other, but how to use those painful moments as steps on the ladder of growth. Because Jung would remind us again and again that what we do not face in ourselves, we will inevitably project on others, especially those closest to us. Which means the anger you throw at your partner is often anger at yourself. The disappointment you feel in them is often disappointment you carry from long ago. The rejection you fear from them is often the rejection you once felt as a child. And if you never pause to reflect, you will believe that your partner is the problem, when in truth they are the mirror. And this mirror, though painful, is the greatest gift love offers, because it gives you a chance to finally meet yourself honestly, to confront your shadow not in theory, but in living reality. And when you take that opportunity, the relationship shifts. It becomes a place of awakening instead of a battlefield, a temple instead of a prison, a school instead of a war zone. But this shift demands immense courage, the courage to own your feelings instead of blaming them on another, the courage to sit with discomfort instead of running from it, the courage to admit, I hurt you, not because of who you are, but because of what lives unresolved in me. And in that moment of radical honesty, intimacy is reborn. Because true closeness is not built on perfection, but on shared humanity. Not on flawless behavior, but on shared humanity. Not about avoiding pain, but about walking through it together hand in hand. This is why Jung saw love as an initiation, a sacred fire that burns away illusions and leaves behind only truth. And those who dare to stay in that fire emerge not only with stronger relationships, but also stronger selves, more whole, more authentic, more compassionate. So if you find yourself wondering why you sometimes wound the one you cherish most, remember that it is not proof that love is broken, it is proof that love is working. Love is doing what it is meant to do, which is to reveal what still needs healing within you. And in that revelation lies the greatest opportunity of all, the opportunity to grow into the kind of person who can love more deeply, more gently, more wisely. And as you walk this path, do not expect it to be easy, for the shadow never reveals itself without resistance, but expect it to be worth it. Because every time you choose reflection over reaction, every time you choose to heal rather than to hurt, every time you choose understanding instead of blame, you are not only saving your relationship, you are also saving yourself. You are breaking cycles that may have lasted generations. You are creating a new model of love that can inspire your children, your friends, your community. And in this way, the personal becomes universal. The healing of two people becomes the healing of many. The courage of one heart becomes the courage of countless others. And this is the hidden beauty Jung left for us, that through the very struggles we try to avoid, we can find the greatest treasures, that through the wounds we give and receive, we can awaken to our wholeness, that through the pain of love, we can discover its deepest power. And so, if you have stayed with me through this journey, I invite you not only to think about Jung's ideas, but to live them, to apply them the next time conflict arises, to pause before you lash out, to look inward before you blame outward, to ask yourself, what part of me is speaking right now? What forgotten wound is crying out? And how can I bring compassion to this moment? And if you practice this, slowly but surely, you will see the magic unfold. The magic of turning pain into understanding, of turning hurt into healing, of turning ordinary love into extraordinary love. And if this message resonated with you, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more explorations of Jung's timeless wisdom and how it can illuminate your everyday life. And do not click away just yet, because watching till the very end will help anchor these insights more deeply into your mind and soul. being the strength to transform your relationships starting today. So let us honor Jung's legacy not by merely admiring his words, but by living them, by daring to face our shadow in the light of love, and by choosing again and again to grow instead of to retreat. For in the end, the greatest gift you can give to the person you love is not perfection, but presence. Not a mask of who you think you should be, but the truth of who you really are. And in that truth, however messy, however imperfect, lies the only love that lasts, the only love that heals, the only love that truly sets us free.